what's hot.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan, and I'm the pastor and executive director here, and this is Noelle Hoelsken, our community director here, who is bringing the message tonight. Thank you, Noelle, for being here. I'm so glad you're here. A few things you all need to know about, but I think I'm going to let you do those few things.
That's true. If it's your first night here, we're so glad you're here. Welcome. We have welcome bags right outside this door here. It has a little bit about what we do here at Free Spiritual Community, a little bag of freshly roasted Wagon coffee. It also has a little bit about what Wagon coffee roasters do. There's some free swag in there, bracelets, so please grab one on your way out. We're really glad y'all are here, and welcome. Welcome to Free.
And Noelle, I forgot to tell them who we are.
Oh my goodness. And what we don't do.
And what we don't do.
Oh my goodness.
Because there's one thing we don't do here.
You've done
so if you're new with us this evening, you should know that we're a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And I think they know it by now. But there is one thing we don't do here. And hey, by the way, welcome to all of our online people, wherever you're joining us from, in your living room or sober living house, whatever state you're in, we're glad you're with us. And I want you all to shout it out with us too. On the count of three, all four words, what we don't do. 1, 2, 3.
We don't do
Man, they did good on this one. We don't do shame in this
10.
community. That was a 10 out of 10.
If you give them a lag and you just let them warm up a little bit, maybe
That's
we're onto something here. They did great.
Okay, so we have other things coming up. Tell us what's up.
We've been in the season of Advent, and you all know for the past 3 weeks we have had an Advent small group on Thursday nights in the cafe right next door. Reverend Ryan and our home team lead, Carrie, have been leading that for us. Just a very intimate gathering, and this Thursday is our last one. So please join us. There's still time to come. So Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30. But I've heard great things about this group. Just kind of.
It has been meaningful and fun, and yes. So if you haven't come yet, you're welcome to come join us this Thursday. We'd love to have you.
And y'all do a very intentional exercise, and
Carrie has been knocking it out of the park with giving us these exercises of love and hope and peace, and it's been fun. Yeah.
Thank you for all your hard work, Carrie. That's great. Next up, we are having baptisms here Saturday, February 4th in our custom-built wagon. If y'all have never been to a baptism here, we bring out our wagon from the front entryway. We put it right here. It's quite the production. So that'll be Saturday, February 4th. Hope y'all can join us. And if you plan on wanting to get baptized or have your kid get baptized, get with Reverend Ryan and plan on attending. We do a What is Baptism night, and it'll be January 19th. It's a Thursday. So we'll meet probably in the wagon room and just kind of go over what is baptism and talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah, if you're interested in that at all, please do let me know sooner rather than later so we can get the number. I've got a note in my phone. There's 4 people on there already, but if you want to be added, let me know.
Now, are you going to cap it off at a certain number? How do you feel about it?
You know, last time I think we did 10.
It was like 10, yeah.
So
and you said I think 10 was your cap.
10, so there's 6
y'all
more spots.
Y'all sign up quick. That's where I'm getting at. Well, the holidays are upon us, and Reverend Ryan filmed this short video for y'all on 3 ways to stay sober during the holidays. So check it out.
The holidays are coming. That means more festivities, more parties, more drinking that you'll be around. And you're asking yourself, how am I going to stay sober through all this?
That's a great question.
3 things you can do to help you stay sober this holiday season. First, make a plan. Decide what time you're going to show up and what time you're going to leave that gathering. And don't be afraid to leave early if the discomfort is too much. The second, be accountable. Take a sober buddy with you, or at least let another sober person know where you're going and what time you'll be home, and text that person throughout the evening. Third, just say no thanks.
No! No!
Someone might offer you a drink at that gathering, and I know it can be awkward. You don't know what to say, but don't overthink it. You don't have to get into your story of how bad it was or how many DUIs you have. You just have to say no thanks. And trust me, they're not going to care.
All right, y'all, stay sober this holiday season. It is possible, and we'll see that in the celebrations. So I want to let you know about a couple of other things coming up in the next week and the week after, and then what's after that. Next week, in 1 week from tonight, it is Christmas Eve. We are doing our Christmas Eve service here at 7. So same as every Saturday night, but we're going to do candle lighting here. Mickey is going to sing Silent Night for us, and he did a piece of it tonight, and it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. So come and raise a candle with us, and let's remind the world that there truly is light that shines, breaks through the darkness. And y'all know this as much as I do, especially people in recovery. We know that light shines in the darkness, and we got to remind the world of that. So next week, 7 p.m. And I do want to say, if you have kids, we're encouraging kids to join with us in this service. The nursery will be open for ages 0 to 5. So if you want to drop babies off in the nursery, that would be cool. And the older kids, parents, let them sit with you. Let them show them what it's like, and be careful. They're going to handle some fire. So just be prepared, all right? Parking could be a little bit of I don't want to say disaster, but there's going to be short on parking. And I want to let y'all know, if you're a regular here and you are able-bodied, Safeway is just a half a block south. That's not true, not south, west. Half a block west, we can park there. So if you want to do it, when I park there, it takes exactly 89 seconds to walk from Safeway to here. So we can do this, right? Save some place for our guests. Save some parking spaces. All right, after Christmas Eve, we do 2 of these a year, rest week. These are spiritual practices. We give everyone a rest week. So if you come here 2 nights from tonight, the place will be closed and you'll be hanging out by yourself outside. So don't come in 2 weeks from tonight. That's our rest week. We do 1 after Christmas and 1 week in the summer. We take that Saturday off. So that's the week after Christmas. Come next week for Christmas Eve, but don't come the following week. And after that, so next we're going to have a book study throughout January on is it Tuesday nights or Thursdays? Tuesday nights. Tuesday night, 6 p.m., The Gifts of Imperfection. We will also be doing a series on this book all 4 weeks, 5 weeks of January. So if you want to be a part of that, there's no sign-ups. We'll be meeting in the back of this room and the couches in the living room area. Just show up, get the book. We'll put in an email, and we'll make some announcements about which chapters to read. But that's going to be led by Noelle and Abby. Abby is part of our home team. And is Abby in the house tonight? Oh, she's back there. Thank you for leading, Abby. It's going to be all kinds of fun. Hope you all come to that. Okay, we are in the 4th week of Advent. Brandon and Lauren Nelson and family, if y'all want to come forward, they're going to light our Advent candles. Just to remind you all, Advent, to put it in its simplest terms, it's the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas, a time of preparing for hope and peace and love and joy to come bursting into the world, which we'll celebrate next week. Light coming into the darkness. That's what these candles represent. So thank you all for being up here.
Thank you.
We're going to light all 4 of them tonight.
Awesome.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. This evening, we light 4 candles, the candles of hope, peace, joy, and tonight's candle, love. This candle reminds us of the greatest commandment, to love God with all of who we are and to love our neighbors as ourselves. This candle reminds us that all persons are of sacred worth, connected to one another by God's love. This candle invites us to love as God loves us. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here and joining us on stage. Yeah, we can clap for them. All right, y'all, the way we kick things off here at Free is we start with celebrations. We start with the good. We start with gratitude. And this is such an important part of our service. We believe that God joins with us in these celebrations, and we take 3 minutes for this. Darren will pass around a mic. If you're online, just simply drop your celebration in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, because we want to celebrate with you all too. And maybe it's a sobriety anniversary, maybe it's a new baby, a new job, whatever the new thing in life is, we want to celebrate that together. So raise your hand, and Darren will bring you a mic, and let's celebrate, shall we? Let's take 3.
Do I stand up? Or?
Yeah, why don't you stand, Brandon?
I'm Brandon, and by the grace of God and a huge support from this community, I Celebrated 2 years sober this last Tuesday.
Way to go, Brandon. And we remember when you first came in. What a beautiful thing. Congratulations, brother.
Hi, I'm Shiloh, and I got a frog squishmallow. I'm just very happy.
All right, Shiloh, we're going to celebrate that with you.
Hands up, please. Hands up.
Darren, right behind you, buddy.
Thank you.
Sean, alcoholic. So this time last year, I was homeless, living in my car, on drugs, strung out on drugs and alcohol. Since then, I've found a place to live. I've got a good job. I've rekindled my relationship with Christ. And coming this week, I'm going to fly out to see my daughter after 4 years of absence. So,
Congratulations, man. We're celebrating that with you, Sean. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Hey, y'all, I'm Jeff, and I'm a gratefully recovering alcoholic with 10 months of continuous sobriety last Wednesday. And I'm proud to say I did 3 days, 2 nights in Las Vegas without a drink, without a craving, and life is beautiful.
Way to go, Jeff. Glad you're here, man. Congratulations. So it is possible to stay sober in Vegas. Amen.
Hey, what's up? My name is Jeremy. I am celebrating my whole family being in this room tonight. We haven't been here since before Halloween because we've been sick with RSV, flu, pneumonia, the flu again. So I'm just celebrating being healthy and being here.
Glad you're here, Rainwaters. Celebrating the good news.
Hands up. We got a minute left. I know we got a celebration in here. There we go.
Got 2 over here.
Hi, I'm Cliff, and my brother is coming into town with his whole family this weekend for Christmas. And we've all had our struggles with alcohol in the past. And fortunately, we've all quit drinking. So we get to look forward to this holiday being together without that in our lives.
Good news, man. Thank you for sharing that with us, Cliff. Glad you're here.
Where was the other one, Ryan?
I thought there was another one back there, but I might have made that up.
We got 10 seconds. One more. Okay.
Tammy, you going to join me up here? Tammy Canaday, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi.
So first, we're going to do some online celebrations with our online people, but we have some very special guests in the house tonight, and I want to let you all know who's here. We have our Bishop of the Mountain Sky Conference of the United Methodist Church. Bishop Karen is here with her partner Robin, who is a deaconess in the United Methodist Church. And we have Mark Calhoun here, who's a superintendent in the Wyoming district, who came 350 miles away to be with us tonight. So he gets the award for joining us from the furthest away. And I just want to say, let's welcome them. And Bishop Karen, thank you so much for supporting Free from the very beginning. I tell the story often of sitting in your living room, and she said, yeah, go do it. And I was like, I don't even know what we're doing. She said, go do it. And all the support you've given along the way. And you too, Robin, thank you so much. It's so good to have you all with us. So be sure to show them some love before they leave tonight. Good to have you all with us. All right, shall we join with our online people?
We should.
You want to take the first one?
I will. Oh, we got a table in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hey, Jen, lots of gratitude. We are blessed with the best fosters for the dogs that come into our rescue. Jack's Fairy Tale Rescues in Durham, North Carolina. Equally as grateful for the forever homes they get placed in. That's cute.
All right, Jen, we're going to celebrate that with you. I got to scoot over a little bit so I can read it. Mike Anderson, who, by the way, Mike was out here. Do y'all remember, like a month ago, was it, celebrating 10 years with us, all the way from Chicago? Glad I got to spend the day with family celebrating my mom's 79th birthday. Congratulations,
stuff,
Mike. We'll celebrate that with you. And I think that's all we have tonight.
Did you see a red dot?
I did see a red dot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So thanks for joining me up here, Tammy. Okay, Noelle, do you want to come take the stage? And I think, so just to bear in mind, we're in this third week of this series called Missing Peace, P-E-A-C-E. And next week is Christmas Eve. That's why it's the last week of Missing Peace. So I'm going to hand this thing to you. Thank you for being here.
Great. I think we have a video. Oh, thank you guys. Here's our video. I was raised Catholic, and I don't claim to be a recovering Catholic. I didn't have a good or a bad experience that would have required that I was paying attention. You know, growing up in church, I was baptized, and I went through communion and confirmation. And in fact, I think I have a picture of my first communion up here. I was really playing the part. I mean, I looked like a great little Catholic girl. And I came from a big Catholic family. You know, in all things considering, I had a relatively positive experience in the Catholic Church, and I had a relatively positive experience with God. In Bill's story on page 12 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it reads, "Why don't you just choose your own conception of God?" And in the late 1934, a 60-day sober Ebby Thatcher sat across from a very intoxicated Bill Wilson at his kitchen table, and he asked him that very question. And that question has probably saved millions. But I didn't need that question when I first got sober. I didn't have these old prejudices against the church. I wasn't harboring resentments against religion, and I wasn't carrying around bitterness towards God. At least I didn't think so until this summer. You know, I knew for months that in July, Reverend Ryan was going to take a sabbatical the entire month. And I knew during that month that I would be writing sermons and meeting with guest storytellers, and I knew I would be on this stage every single Saturday. I was prepared for that. What I wasn't prepared for was my dog, you know, like my baby. He just suddenly passed away. And then I closed on this house and moved across town, and so that was really stressful. And then during this time, y'all know that full-time I work as a project manager at an engineering firm. And I left the engineering firm I'd been at for 8 years to go to another engineering firm. So all my comfort zones were being uplifted during this time, like everything that I knew. And in the height of all of this overwhelming stress and these life changes, I also found out that I was pregnant. You know, we're in this 3-week series called Missing Peace. And I wasn't just missing peace during this time, but I was drowning in turbulence, and the shame just came over me. All of these deep-seated religious beliefs from church that I had suppressed, that I didn't even know were there, they began to bubble up. I thought that I was a fraud, you know, that I was less than. And when shame consumes us, we tend to let delusion take over. You know, during this 2-week period of time in July, I took approximately 14 pregnancy tests, all with the same results. And I remember calling my best friend and asking her if she thought I was really pregnant. You know, maybe I just needed to take a couple more and see how it would go. And I asked her what she thought. And she said, "Noelle, how expensive is your denial?" When I am missing peace, my denial gets really expensive, especially my emotional denial. And my delusion didn't just stop there. Like, I know what y'all are thinking. Noelle, you stand on this stage every single week and have a front row seat to Reverend Ryan saying that there's one thing that we don't do here at Free. There's one thing, it's 4 words. We don't do shame. Why were you stressing out so bad? Noelle, you're in a committed, loving relationship. It's a beautiful thing. Why are you stressing out? Why is the shame coming up? You know, when we're missing peace, we get squirrely really quickly. And I began to feel, you know, this shame weighing down, like I was just this phony. And right before Rev Ryan left for sabbatical, we were sitting in his office. And it was the day that I found out that my dog was going to pass. So, like, emotions were just flooding me. And he looked at me and he's like, "Wow, I haven't been nervous about leaving until this very moment." And I didn't say anything to him, but I hadn't been nervous about him leaving until that very moment either. I was really worried to tell him about everything that was going on. I knew that if I was on staff at a non-denominational Christian church down the street, that I would kindly be asked to step down from my position within the organization. And I knew that Reverend Ryan, he took a purity promise in high school. And I knew that for his undergraduate, he had to sign a Christian covenant that was adamantly against the exact situation that I was in at that particular time. Brene Brown says this. She says, when you avoid conflict to make peace with people, you start a war within. And that internal war, it was raging within me. And to be clear, this imposter syndrome, it didn't come from my family, and it didn't come from my friends, and it certainly didn't come from Reverend Ryan. It originated in these religious rules that had been ingrained in me, ones that I wasn't even aware that I held on to, rules that made me feel instantly estranged. So the only place that I was finding temporary, counterfeit peace in was in isolation, and it was in hiding and avoiding everyone and everything. And for a couple months, that's where I found this short-term relief. Here at Free, we're a community of addicts and loved ones of addicts and spiritual refugees. And up until about 5 months ago, I had no idea what it meant to be a spiritual refugee. I didn't know the guilt that you can carry from organized religion. I had never felt the weight of that title. I didn't know what it felt like to feel like morally or inherently bad. I didn't become a spiritual refugee until I was 3 years sober. Sometimes when we're in these seasons of missing peace, we get all twisted up in ourselves and think, God, are you really here? And I want to start this weekend by looking at a passage that David wrote. It's a psalm or a poem that he wrote as a declaration to God. So we'll be in Psalm 23 this evening. And it's a familiar passage, and I just want to share some stuff that was really important and significant to me during this season, especially as it relates to missing peace. So Psalm 23, it starts out this way, and it's really amazing. It says, "The Lord is my shepherd, and I have all that I need. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams, and he renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honor to his name." Have you ever been on the other side of a dilemma, and you're so grateful that the path that you wanted to come to fruition, that it just didn't come to fruition? You're so grateful God's path did. Verse 4, "Even when I walk through the darkest valleys, I will not be afraid, for you are close behind me." It's easy in a difficult season to confuse a difficult season with the absence of God. And David is here saying, no, I've been through some dark seasons, and I've been through the darkest valleys, and I don't have fear because I know that God is close beside me. And he said, "Your rod and your staff will protect and comfort me. You will prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies. You will honor me by anointing my head with oil. My cup overflows with blessings. Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever." And I'm going to say it again, just to make sure we don't miss it. Surely your goodness and unfailing love, God's goodness and unfailing love, will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever. It's an amazing psalm, and I can see why it's slapped on coffee mugs, and there's grandmas all across the world right now probably etching this into a quilt right now as we speak. It's one of those psalms that's etched into wood in hallways and put in bathrooms. And it's one of those verses that on surface level, especially when we're in a really great season, that it sounds really good. It reminds us of the faithfulness of God. But when you're in a dark season, Psalm 23, it doesn't really fit. It doesn't fit our lives. And it doesn't fit what's going on, and it certainly didn't fit what was going on for me this summer. If there was a year that was going to call something inside of me into question, 2022 was going to do that for me. And as I look back this year and I start to unpack it for myself, I found that my prayer life, it looked a lot like, God, can you get me from where I'm struggling here to where I'm not struggling over here? Have you ever been in a situation and your plea to God is, God, can you get me from A to B? Because B just looks like it has a lot more happiness than A. Like that's where I'll be happy is over at B. And oftentimes I see my problems as the problems, and I really remove God from the equation and just use him simply to get me through my problems, kind of like an errand boy. Like, please help me get from point A to point B. Help me get sober. Help me with this new job. Help me get through this season right now because it's just getting really tough. And as I recently read through Psalm 23, some things started to jump out at me in a way that they hadn't before. David took us from verse 1 through this unbelievable psalm, and then he led us to the same conclusion that he started with. So you watch what he says in verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. And in some translations, it says, I lack nothing. And then he brings us through laying down by green pastures and still waters. And God is with David in the valley and takes us on this journey with God. And then David finishes saying in verse 6, surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life. David is one of the most significant figures in human history. This is the man that took down Goliath. He knows about being in some dark valleys. And at the end of the journey that God takes him on, his conclusion is this: I have a good shepherd, and I have all that I need. The struggle inside of our hearts when we face opposition or friction is for God to get us from the dysfunction or that frustration into a place of peace. Like you can look at your desire for money or a healthier relationship or sobriety, and I guarantee you that the root of all of those things is just you want more peace in your life. Peace is the goal of our lives. It's our life ambition, and it drives our human heart to do great things. Peace is what we want, but the problem is we get peace all wrong. You see, the Bible refers to God as the God of peace. The God of peace. And Jesus as the Prince of Peace. And here's why that's important. Peace God possesses. Peace originates in God. Peace can only be found in God. Every other form of peace that you find outside of the character of God is going to be a counterfeit peace. And we're pretty good with counterfeit peace. That's why alcohol consumption has skyrocketed and drug consumption has skyrocketed. It's because we're searching for counterfeit peace, this brief relief. And all the world knows is counterfeit peace. And Scripture tells us God is the God of peace. Not the God to peace, but the God of peace. And that was the part that I was missing this summer. I had started my faith journey with just a ton of faith, like I couldn't have been rocked. And then here I stand in front of you today, and I'm just so rooted in my faith. But in those valleys over this summer, I lost touch with this, that I can't find lasting peace apart from God. We created a space for spiritual refugees here at Free because every time that we put God in a box, God is on the other side of that box. And every time we draw a line and we say who's in and who's out, creating missing peace for ourselves and others, God is on the other side of that line. At the beginning of the summer of September, I was about 4 months pregnant. And I knew that I had to tell Ryan soon. And my hands were sweaty and my voice was shaky, but somehow I got the courage to do so. And can I tell you what happens? I wasn't condemned, and I wasn't fired. I wasn't asked to step down, and I was met with so much grace and love. And he congratulated me, and shortly after, we got back to planning out our next series, and when I was going to be preaching next, and what was next on our agenda. Like, he didn't even skip a beat. Let me tell you, it takes a strong human being to break away from the deep-seated beliefs from organized religion that's been ingrained in you for decades. And it takes a great pastor to break that silence and create a space for those who have been afflicted by those very views. But it takes an extraordinary leader to follow through with that mission at every level, especially when it means really standing behind your leadership team in a public capacity. So thank you for that. In this community, free spiritual community that he and his wife created, this community, y'all met me with the same amount of grace and support, and there were no comments of concern. It was just love and positivity. So thank you for that. So why is it important to shed light on, missing peace? Why is it important, this spiritual refugee story of mine over the past couple months? Or why is it important to reflect on any of our past endeavors? There's a philosopher, and his name is Carl Sandburg. And Sandburg talks about civilizations over the course of time that they didn't survive the test of time. From Mayan societies to Roman societies, the one thing that has caused them to fail, there's one denominator, and it's that they forgot where they came from. So maybe some innovative technology came along, like a rock wheel or a bow and arrow, something where they forgot their fundamentals, what grounded them, what brought them success to begin with. See, if we forget where we come from, we forget where we're going. And if we forget where we're going, we forget our why. And that's how extinction occurs. So I never want to forget, this season of 2022 in my life and how I had so much faith, but only for it to be met by opposition. And I never want to forget what that opposition felt like, what that missing piece felt like. And most importantly, I never want to forget coming out of that season and being at the same point in my faith, just like David. I went through that valley only to find that my faith in God and his timing was stronger as a result of that season. And the same thing goes for active addiction. I never want to forget those days that I peeled myself off my desk and I kept pushing despite that depression. And I never want to forget that memory of going into the stairwell in my office and just crying, wondering how I was going to break this cycle. Like, how was I going to put the bottle down? And I never want to lose sight of the work that it takes to get and to stay sober. And I certainly never want to overlook the joy that I have from creating a life that I no longer want to escape from. See, if I forget where I'm going, if I forget where I came from, I forget where I'm going. And then I'm out there searching for the next drink or drug. And for me, that's a recipe for spiritual bankruptcy, for missing peace. Some of us need to be reminded at this time of year in our searching and grasping, during this Christmas season, there's going to be a search for a path of peace. But more gym time and more sober time, getting on a budget, that's not going to lead y'all to peace. Those things are healthy and they're recommended, absolutely. If your hope for the new year is this, I will have peace through one of those things, I promise you, it will only be counterfeit peace until the next opposition comes. That kind of peace doesn't last forever. Here's the thing about bad times. They don't last forever. And here's the thing about good times. They don't last forever either. So we have to find something in between to maintain and manage us, no matter if we're in the meadows of green grass or we're in our darkest valleys. You have to have something to neutralize the peace in your own soul, because you're not going to find peace out there. You will only find peace with God. And he's not just your guide to navigate you through hard times, but he is the presence of peace in hard times. Free spiritual community, even if you're missing peace through this Christmas season, I'm just here to remind you that God is with you, no matter what opposition you find yourself in. So I have a special treat for you tonight. We're closing out this 3-week series on missing piece. I'm going to bring up Hallie Marie, and she's going to sing a beautiful song for us that's going to perfectly close out this series. This is a song about finding peace in one another, and most importantly, about finding peace in God.
I found a place to rest upon in you. I can see you're not what people here adore. Other voices shouting more. Speak in me, give me to the way. 'Cause now I see it's only me here, and I'm gonna burn one day. Sing in me, set me free to your bells. For there is no room for two in this house of you. Here comes the dawn. I've been searching so long for you. All the lights from your city, and it looks so pretty, calling me home, telling me what I've always known. Speak in me, get me to the way. 'Cause I believe in dreaming, but I'll have to leave one day. Sing in me, show yourself to yourself. For there is no room for two in this house of you. We'll take care of each other, forgive one another. We're home, we've been here all along.
Hallie, we are so lucky to have you in this community. Do you want to say anything about that song?
Oh,
Or anything about... Shoot, the mic is yours, Hallie. Do you want to say anything?
I just wrote this song. About God and about finding peace through God and about seeing God in everyone and serving God that way and learning more about myself that way.
I'm so glad you're part of this community, and Hallie helps every week in the tech team in the back, and it's so good to have you here, Hallie. I love it when you come sing with us and for us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's good to have you here tonight. All right, y'all, if you're new with us this evening, you should know that every single Saturday night we do have a guest storyteller to join us up in the living room to share some of their experience, strength, and hope. with the topic at hand, and it's always recovery related. And tonight, I can't wait for y'all. Many of you know him. Robert Peasley is in the house. Robert, man, we had a group of leaders in our home. Robert was one of them. This was about a month ago, just to talk about what are the heavy things you're carrying and how can we support one another. And we just had, 12 of us gathered in our living room. We shared a meal together. Robert was there, and man, you'll see it tonight, but one of the things I love about my boy Peasley is he just brings this authenticity and a realness, and it comes with this life of recovery that we get to live, a God who's doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. Now, Peasley, as we call him, some of y'all can call him Robert, but most of us call him Peasley. Peasley is the founder and owner of Route to Recovery Homes. He now has 2 men's homes and 1 women's home, and it's just growing like crazy. And 9 years sober. Peasley, come up here and join me, brother. All right, how you feeling, dude?
It's a little bright up here, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's nice so you can't see everyone out there, which makes it less intimidating, right?
I mean, that's the perfect way to do it.
So let's just jump into things. I want to know. The first question I want to ask you is, when you were in active addiction, and y'all will hear it. I mean, we're talking booze, every drug you can name. You were in it. Where were you missing peace in your life?
You know, it's everywhere. In all reality, you know, really what it comes down to was, for me, the biggest part of it was just being so lost. I felt lost. I felt out of place. I didn't feel that I fit in anywhere. For me, it was me constantly trying to hold the steering wheel and drive my own ship. And over the time, I learned that just wasn't it. I had something else that was bigger than me that was missing in my life. And for the longest time, I didn't know what that was. And basically refusing. I grew up in a home I was just never exposed to anything outside of ourselves. Basically, I wasn't exposed to anything religious, not even anything spiritual. I had no idea that there was this ability to allow something bigger than me into my life. And so I fought through much of my childhood and in the early parts of my adult life, just trying to fight it on my own.
Yeah, and you actually, I think you'll get into this, but you celebrated your 27th birthday in rehab. But before you told me that, you said you were never alone, but you always felt lonely. And man, I think every addict, alcoholic in this room or watching tonight, we know that feeling. It's lonely, it's filled with shame, but we're not alone. And you break the misconceptions of you didn't grow up in a bad family or where there was constant chaos around you. You had a family that loved you, but you were alone. Explain that to people. Bring them into that.
So basically, with that, I was always a great chameleon. I knew how to fit in anywhere. I could show up to school. I could fit in with one group of kids one day, the next day, the next group. It didn't matter where I went. I could be part of any group of people. But with that I never fit in. I never felt at home. And, that part of that piece, and this piece that we're talking about, and this is just, I'm very blessed to be part of this series because, it's just that I didn't know where to fit in, and I could fit in any group, but none of them meant anything to me from home. And so that part about never being alone, but being lonely, it didn't matter how many people I was surrounding myself with on a day-to-day basis. I still felt like I was a ghost in the room. I could have 20 people surrounding me, and I still felt like I was the only one in that room.
So help people understand a little bit about what your usage was like, what addiction looked like for you, the drugs, the booze, what it looked like, and where did it lead you?
So realistically, the addiction piece of it started at a very young age. The very first time I got caught for anything, I was, 7, 8 years old. And I got caught stealing a pack of bubble gum from King Soopers. My mom, or my best friend and his brother, his mom and my mom would switch off during the summer when we were out of school every other week, taking care of us. And my best friend's little brother, about 2 years younger than us, knew that my mom had this no food in the room rule, and he found a pack of bubble gum, and he went out to my mom and said, "Mom, or Mary, Robert's got this gum in his room," and she immediately knew she didn't buy that for me. So I had to admit that I stole it, and she took me back to King Soopers, and I had to tell the manager that I had taken that. And so at a very young age, I needed to feel different. I needed a way to get outside of myself and feel something very different. And so all through my life, and as I got older, and having that missing piece and not feeling like I fit in and not feeling like I belonged, I found that drugs and alcohol could numb that out, and that I was able to escape that reality. I was able to escape my emotions. I could escape the way I was feeling because I didn't want to feel, and that's the truth of it. And I ended up with my first DUI at 19 years old, and I was the perfect role model on probation. I did everything right, and got through all of that. As soon as I was off of papers and off of probation, lasted about 3 months, and then picked up new charges. And that's where my addiction took me, was because basically during the time of the DUI, I had an interlock in my vehicle. I couldn't drink. And so I found my way into harder substances, and I began to numb out that way. And that gave me more of an escape to just get away from the way that I was feeling.
So a Sunday morning rolls around, you wake up in a shed, and enough was enough. What was that moment like for you? That what we call the gift of desperation, or hitting your bottom. What was it like?
So I had always heard this, that you've got to hit bottom before you can come back up. And I thought throughout my life there was so many different bottoms. There were so many different times that I had lost everything. And the truth is up until this point, the only things I had ever lost was, material objects, cars, toys, motorcycles, cell phones, things like that. And then it started to lose, where I began to lose family and friends. And no matter how much I lost, none of that mattered. The consequences did not matter in my addiction, because I was going to keep doing what I was doing. I remember very vividly, it was a Sunday morning, and I came to this realization that I had lost myself. And that was a huge turning point for me, because I looked at my buddy that I used with daily, and I said, "Is this okay? Is it okay what we're doing?" And his simple answer was just a simple shrug of the shoulders. It was in that moment that I realized my addiction had become my lifestyle. It had become my way of living, and I was tired of it. I was ready to make a change. And I knew I could reach out to family, but I had to have a plan in place. I had exhausted all of my please help me's and do this for me's. It was time to do it on my own. And so that day I made a decision to find placement in a treatment center for myself. They had told me I can get in on Thursday, but to call them every single day until then, in case something else opened up sooner. After making that contact with that treatment program, I reached out to my family. I told them, long story short, here's where I'm at, here's what I've been doing. In my mind, thinking they have no clue. They have no idea what I've been up to. That was not the case. Their immediate response was, we know where you've been. We know who you've been doing it with. And I said, well, I've got this place locked down. Please help me. And from that moment, they allowed me back in their home for a few days. If they said jump, you can bet I better have flown. And just do it their way. And then that following Thursday morning, that was September 24th of 2013, my father had taken that entire week off of work and given up, put himself in a bad position. He had to take time off of work so that he could stay with me. And sadly, it wasn't because he was worried for my health or my safety. It was because he was worried about his house and me being in it and me being around his things. There was no trust there. And so he took that time off to, for lack of better words, babysit me until he drove me in that Thursday morning and dropped me off at the treatment center's doorsteps.
And dude, isn't it amazing? This is always mind-blowing to me
9 years ago, did you ever think, man, you know, in 9 years from now, I'm going to be like starting and owning sober living homes and helping other people get sober? That's just a mind-blowing thing.
If you would ask me 9 years ago, I would have been convinced that I was going to die in my addiction.
Yeah.
It's a huge blessing and a huge, you know, I mean, God has put me in this opportunity and put me in this place to give back to others and be able to help out.
Yeah, and you're doing it. So help people understand what, when you hit that kind of bottom and you reached out and got help, got sober, what was the hardest part for you about getting sober and staying sober?
So on that one, I mean, the easiest part of that was giving up the drugs and alcohol. That was the easiest part of getting and staying sober. You know, putting them down, you know, I had to go through a few days of detox and withdrawals, and it was miserable. But that was such a small piece in comparison. For me, the hardest part is staying away from that. How do I stay away from the drugs and alcohol? How do I keep myself connected and on that right path? And then one of the biggest challenges that I faced, especially in my early recovery, was I had to separate myself from the people who loved me most, the people who were still in my corner, who still believed in me. But these were people who didn't understand the addiction. They didn't understand. I couldn't go to them and say, oh, I'm craving, I want to get high, I want to drink today. You know, and for you know, totally understandable that if I were to say those things, it was automatically put him on a leash, you know, lock him down. What's he going to do? He's going to go relapse. And so in my early recovery, I had to remove myself from some of the people that loved me the most and cared about me, because I needed to find a new group of people that understood me, people that could relate to me, people who I could freely talk about and feel like I wasn't going to be judged, and people who, when I talked to them, said, man, you know, I really wanted to drink or get high today. These people were going to say, I felt that way too, or this, you know, just a few days ago, that's where I was at. And suddenly there was this conversation that we could have around it.
Yeah, and you said, I highlighted it in my notes when you were talking the other day. You said that you got your sense of belonging back. You said freedom, I wasn't judged, and peace came in finally when I was able to be myself. I didn't have to pretend anymore. And man, isn't that the most freeing feeling, when you can be who you are and not pretend? What was that like?
So, you know, that was one of my first big aha moments, you know, in my recovery. I'd gone to treatment and found, you know, I was in this bubble. I was protected. I was told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. You know, in my mind, it was very difficult to screw that up. It's when I got out of treatment and I went into sober living myself after, you know, I went into treatment committed. I said, I'm doing 30 days. It was a 30-day program. And my counselor thought I should move on to sober living after about 21 days. Well, you know, my mind says, you're wrong. I'm right. I'm going to do 30 days. And he convinced me differently. He said, you know, if you'd stop listening to yourself and start listening to others and taking suggestions from other people who just might know a little bit more than you, you know, you might be surprised at what you find out. And so I took his suggestions and I ended up going to a sober living program. And the entire 21 days in treatment, I had gotten past the worst of the withdrawal symptoms, and I still maybe in 21 days maybe got 8 hours of sleep collectively over all those days. That first night I went to sober living, I went to bed probably 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and slept till about 10:30, 11 o'clock the next morning.
You had some catching up to do.
Yeah, I did. You know, that was probably the first time in 5 years that I had slept through an entire night all the way through without waking up and feeling disturbed. And I was finally at home. And by home, I meant I was around my people. I was around people that understood me, that related to me, that I could relate to them. And I finally felt I could take that mask off, because up until this point, you know, I was just barely 27 years old. As Ryan had mentioned, I spent that 27th birthday, and that was the second birthday actually that I had spent in a second rehab center. So I was kind of getting used to this concept of like, go to rehab, celebrate a birthday, they make you a free cake. Why wouldn't I want to do that?
Free cake in rehab.
Hey, you know, you got to look for the silver linings.
So, you know, there's this other misconception out there that we get peace when we just put down a drink, when you stop using. But dude, the way you talk about it is, to get peace actually takes work.
people in recovery, we know this. Talk about the work that it takes to get on this path of peace.
Wait, you mean I don't just put down the drinks and the drugs and life's good?
And some people do it, right? But you can still miss peace.
Man, I've been doing this all wrong. No, you see, and that's what's wild is I truly thought at one point, all I have to do is give up the drugs and alcohol, because my friends and family, they don't like the drugs and alcohol. My employers, they don't like the drugs and alcohol. And I had this, this false reality of, that it's the drugs and the alcohol that people don't like and that things don't like. And really what it came down to is it was the version of me. It was me on the drugs and alcohol that was the problem. And the problem comes from within. And so putting down the drugs and alcohol, to me, that didn't create a better life. To me, that showed me, all right, now it's time to put in the work. Now, if I want to continue on and creating a better way of living for myself, it's time to do the work, and I have to work at it every single day. And for me, that's a huge part of that is one, I had to become comfortable with myself. I had to work on myself. I had a sponsor and I went through the 12 steps, and I actually did 12 steps 2.5 times, got fired halfway through the third time because I told my sponsor, I got this. Like, I'm good.
Yeah, how'd that work out for you?
I'm still sober, but it didn't make my life much, easier in that moment. But again, that just, to me, that was very humbling because I started to get a little bit complacent. That time it was around 3.5 years, maybe 4 years, somewhere in that range into my recovery. And I came, basically thought I had it under control. And my sponsor said, well, if you don't want to do the work, I have people that want to do it. I'm letting you go. And I quickly realized I still have to do this work because I will never get it. And for me, the moment I start to tell myself that I have this and that I've got it figured out, it's a very slippery slope. And so a big part of my recovery is continuing to give back to others. I spent the first 2 years of my recovery, 2+ years of my recovery, being selfish, because now suddenly I get to be selfish for a positive reason. Yep. I'm selfish about my recovery because that keeps me on that path. I have learned that I get very uncomfortable in my recovery too. And for me, a big part of that is I now know it, but in my early recovery, I couldn't identify it. But when God starts to show up in my life, in my recovery, He makes it very uncomfortable for me because He says, you're starting to act up. I'm gonna get you back online. And it's really cool because early on, I would feel that uncomfortableness. Is that a word? I don't know if that's a word. We're going to go with it. I like it. It's a Saturday night. We're going to go with that. But I would feel very discomforted, and I didn't know why. And I would start to just question myself. What am I doing wrong? Why are things not going the way that I think that they should? And really what that comes down to is they're going the way they need to. And that was a big thing for me, was understanding and accepting and letting that peace back into my life, because I started to realize towards, the further I got into my recovery, that I was so used to, because even now with 9 years, a little over 9 years of my recovery, that is still a small amount of time compared to, the first 35 years of my life of, or 27 that's when I got sober, of having that addictive mindsets and behaviors. Yeah. And even after 9 years, I still struggle sometimes admitting that I deserve what's coming my way. It's a challenge for me to believe that I deserve this, to believe that I'm worthy of this. And so I have to just continue to work at that. I have to show up. And that's a big part of it, is just showing up and being present and putting myself in situations that are uncomfortable and doing things that I don't like. And because that's where the growth comes from.
And dude, what I love about your example is 9 years sober, but you're still working this stuff, because we don't ever graduate. We don't ever grow out of it. We get to keep doing it together and give back together. And that's what you're doing. So Peasley, as we're wrapping things up, I know tonight someone is here sitting either in this room, maybe out in the cafe, maybe they're watching online. And you know how the holidays are, man. Christmas is coming up. We know we got a problem, but we're going to wait till January. For the person who is barely hanging on right now, and they're hearing your story and they're thinking, man, I need to get some help. It's gotten bad enough. I've lost my peace. I've lost my life. I've lost all this stuff. What would you say to that person who's barely hanging on?
The biggest takeaway that I could leave somebody with is is there's a quote that I really like, and it says that everything great is just on the other side of fear. And I like that because basically the only thing that is stopping us from doing anything is me. I am the only barrier that I have. I am the only obstacle that I have. And what I found is when I step over that line of the fear, there's so many great opportunities. I have convinced myself over the years that if I'm honest about who I am, if I ask for help, that I'm going to be looked less upon. And I've actually realized that when I can humble myself, show some humility, and ask for that help and take that next step, that I have had so much. I am not here today because I've done this on my own. I am here today because I have had just an immense amount of support and help along the way to lift me up. And even today still, I cannot always lift myself up. And so if you're struggling, reach out, ask for help. It's okay if you don't know what kind of help you need. Sometimes it's just as simple as saying, I need help, and letting those around us who are in a better place guide us.
That's powerful, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Peasley in the house. Thank you for being here, Robert. Love you, brother. You going to stick around for a few minutes? What's that? You going to stick around for a few minutes?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, if you know someone looking for sober living, and y'all scattered throughout this room, we have people in sober living, owners, starters of sober living. But talk to Robert. He'll get you in the right place, and he's there to reach out to. Thank you for being here, Peasley. Appreciate you, brother. All right, y'all. The way we end things here at Free on a Saturday night is the same way we begin, except not with celebrations. We call it heartaches. The heavy burdens that you're carrying, the heavy stuff you're carrying that you have no business carrying, at least carrying alone. Because what we find is we suck at carrying these things alone. It's why we do it together in community. So again, we just take 3 minutes. If you're online, drop them in the Facebook comments or YouTube comments, wherever you're joining us from. And raise up your hand. Darren will bring you a mic and give the heartache, the heavy burden that you're carrying, so we can lift one another up, pray for one another, support one another. Let's take 3 minutes.
Hey everybody, I'm Deanna. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm just in the process of fully transitioning out of like the old version of myself as far as my career is concerned, and I'm really trying to burn the ships there and step into that next best version that I believe that I can be, thanks to the program and all that. And it's time, and it's been a lot of work and a lot of pressure, but yeah, that's a heavy burden that I'd like to share it with. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Prayers for you. Stepping into that new version. Right behind you, D.
My name's Adam, alcoholic addict. So like in my life, I really struggle with letting people into my life. And as soon as people will even get close to me, I kind of push them all away. So, maybe somewhere out there, I could reach something and just stop doing that to people. It's really difficult, but I'm sure everybody's felt that in their life. But I just can't seem to get over it, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to let people in or love people ever again. So that's my tragedy.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Adam. And Adam's here each week, and he's one of the most loving human beings we have here. So thanks for sharing that with us, and I'm glad you're here.
Hi, my family struggles with the alcoholism of my ex-husband, who's been drinking for all of our lives, and my kids and I could really use lifting up right now.
Prayers for you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Prayers for the family.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tom, and I'm sitting here with my wife and my daughter. And we're heading into the holiday season, heading into Christmas, after losing our daughter 5 months ago to fentanyl overdose. So that's our heartache, but at the same time, we do have some peace, knowing that she is now at peace. So it's dual-sided for us. And we're so glad to be here.
So glad you guys are here. It's an honor to journey with y'all. Prayers for you during this season.
Hi, my name is Heather, and I'm an alcoholic. My heartache is I have brought in a lot of pain and discomfort with my addiction to my family. And so if I could get any prayers, that would be great because I am just starting my recovery process.
Heather, congratulations for starting that process, and prayers for you. I know it's heavy in the chaos that surrounds us, but so glad you're doing that. We're all going to be praying for Heather tonight, and I hope you connect with people afterwards. Glad you're here. D, you going to join me up here this evening?
Absolutely.
Darren is here. Darren is the executive director of Colorado Artists in Recovery. His office is here, and he's doing incredible work, but more than that, I'm glad you're part of this community.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right, buddy, you take the first one.
All right. The first one is from Desiree. One of my closest friends passed away 2 nights ago, and I am not okay with this. Please pray for his mom and siblings. Desiree, our hearts with you. Prayers are with you.
Yeah, prayers for you, Desiree. Stephen says, please pray for BLJ that he realize and accept grace, patience, and humility. Thank you, Stephen. From Pennsylvania, we're praying for BLJ. Thank you for lifting them up. That's it. All right, man. All right. Well, thank you for joining me up here. A light online gathering tonight. Hey, yeah, I've got just a couple minutes. So Noelle mentioned we're going to be doing baptisms in the custom-built wagon here, which is all kinds of awesome. We're going to fill the thing with water, and we're going to dunk people in the water. So if you want to do that, let me know. But it's important that you all know, it's been a minute since I've shared the wagon story. It's important you all know why the wagon is a central image in this community, why we do baptisms in a wagon, why I got a wagon tattooed on my neck. It was a few years ago. I was out in LA taking a tour with a group of people at the LA Rescue Mission, which is the largest rescue mission in the world. And the executive director took us up to the top floor where they have their memorabilia, pictures of who they are and their history. And on the center, the biggest picture of this, on the center of the wall was this picture of a wagon. And I said, what's the story of the wagon? And he said, dude, you don't know the story of the wagon? And I said, no, but apparently I need to know. And he tells us the story of the wagon. And he said, this is how we got started in the late 1800s. This wagon would leave the site and go into the roughest parts of LA, which did exist back then. And they would distribute things like food, clothing, and Bibles. And then at the end of the night, they would welcome anyone who wanted to get on the wagon to get on and head to a place of recovery. Now, what happens when you get a bunch of drunks on a wagon? Some of them fall off, which was totally mind-blowing for me when I heard the story. I was like, is that where we get falling off the wagon? Yes, that's where that comes from. Now, when the people would fall off the wagon, what made this wagon so unique was the wagon would stop and the sober ones would get off of the wagon and help the drunk ones back on because they knew where they were headed. And when I heard that story, I thought, man, if we ever start something new, a wagon has to be the central image. So when we started in our backyard 4 years ago, we set a wagon in the center up against the tree, and it was the reminder of who we are and what we're doing here. We always do this work together in community, and I want to let you all know, without your giving in this community, we don't exist. And thank you all for being the wagon through your generous donations and generous giving in this community. And I know for so many of you, that's a spiritual practice in your life, and it makes a big difference here. And before we get the video on the screen, I just want to let you know, we had a really cool thing happen last Saturday. A guy came in and he wanted to donate a matching donation up to $10,000. He said, Ryan, do you think you can get this matched? And I said, I don't know, but we're going to try. So I want to tell y'all, that was last Saturday. Anything that comes in through the end of the year, if you put in the memo of your giving, or if you give a check, or any cash that comes in the donation boxes tonight, will be matched dollar for dollar up to $10,000. So that means if you give $5, you really gave 10. If you give 100, that's really 200. And I think we can do it. I'll tell y'all, I was watching our Subsplash account this morning, and I'm not going to give you the number of where we're at.
but so many of you have given and put free match in the memo, and we're so grateful for that. If you want to give, there's 3 ways to give in this community. And the first way is to simply download the app. You can download the app. It's free, and you can go to the giving section there and give one time or weekly or monthly, however you want to do it, or you can go directly to the website, freespiritualcommunity.com, and you can give there. And we're missing sound in the video tonight. Or you can text message the number on your screen. There's a sound, and it'll walk you through some instructions. Your giving here keeps the mission going in this community, and y'all know how important it is to break the silence of addiction. It's what's happening here on the daily, and we all get to be a part of that. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being a part of that, because we do this work together. All right, shall we close in a prayer? I invite you to just open your hands. Take a big deep breath in. Exhale. Be reminded of your breathing. Invite God, who created the universe, into your breathing. God is near, as Noelle reminded us. God is with us. If you don't know this prayer, it's called the 11th step prayer, or the St. Francis prayer. It's on your screen. Let's pray this prayer together. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. My free brothers and sisters, tonight, this week, may you experience God who is with us. May you experience the beginning of hope breaking into the darkness, light breaking into the darkness, and because of that, may you experience all kinds of grace and peace that is already with you. And we'll see you on Christmas Eve.